weekend, and when the weekend comes, so do the movies. When the movies come, well, inevitably, it's Michael Snyder. Hello, Michael.
Well, hi, Alex, and hey, listeners. We're falling into fall. Autumn is here, and we're getting closer and closer to the end of the year, which means big deal movies, but this is one of those weeks that doesn't explode with blockbusters. Nonetheless, let's get down to it. As an historical recreation with top-grade actors, the current war is worth seeing. It's the story of the battle in the late 1890s between inventor Thomas Edison and businessman George Westinghouse, the latter working with the genius Nikola Tesla to control how electricity is going to be distributed throughout America. Although it depicts how great scientific minds were thrust into conflict by economic considerations and commercial competition and politics and greed and ego, all sounding pretty exciting, I found the movie a little dry in the telling. Still, I was engaged throughout, probably because I didn't really know that much about the specific circumstances of what was a technological revolution at the time, and a revolution that saw a debate about which type of current should be the standard. Should it be Edison's direct current, DC, or Westinghouse and Tesla's AC, alternate current? Of course, the current war wouldn't work half as well as it does without Benedict Cumberbatch as Edison, Tom Holland, Spider-Man himself, as Edison's assistant Samuel Insull, Michael Shannon from Boardwalk Empire and other great performances as Westinghouse, and Nicholas Hoult as Tesla. Plus, you get Catherine Waterston as Marguerite Westinghouse, who is George's very ambitious wife, and in a bit of casting that made me smile, Tuppence Middleton as Mary Edison, Thomas's wife. When I first heard of this rising young actress with the very British name of Tuppence Middleton, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if she did a movie with Cumberbatch and they fell in love and they got married, and then she'd be Tuppence Middleton Cumberbatch. Well, anyway, Middleton and Cumberbatch finally are in the current war together and playing a married couple, so yay. The movie is directed by Alfonso Gomez Rejon with a certain visual flair, lots of strange angles and kind of almost jarring leaps from scene to scene, but it does reproduce the era and places it gives a splendid look at the Chicago World's Fair, where the City of Light would be powered in dazzling fashion for amazed fairgoers by either Edison or Westinghouse. By the way, this theatrical release is subtitled The Director's Cut, although I have not seen earlier versions. Yeah, I was pretty much on board with the current war. Moving on to something far less worthy, Countdown. Like the movie Killer App from a year or two ago, Countdown is a horror film about a killer app, as in a phone app that predicts your death, then assures it, especially if you don't adhere to the nasty terms of agreement that you failed to read when you downloaded the app on a lark, which is what happens, of course, at the beginning of the film by dumb teenagers. In the case of this pedestrian affair, app rhymes with crap. I mean, you immediately know which teenager at the party is going to be the first to find her online countdown saying time's up. If you do download this malware, there will be cursed demonic elements at work in your phone. I mean, other than a bad monthly plan with limited texting. At least that's what a hipster priest reveals to the actual heroine of the movie, a hot but troubled and only somewhat competent nurse who foolishly does the deadly download when peer pressured. And then the expected latter-day last girl standing horror cliches come into play as she, her little sister, and some rando guy she meets try to avoid their grisly fates with only hours to go. Shades, pardon the ghostly reference, of the Final Destination movies, since we see the inevitability of death as its potential victims try to avoid their fate, here preordained by their cell phones, whose greatest danger is not radiation or identity theft or enabling the bearer to be traced by the government, but allowing death to track you to the bitter end. No matter how many followers you have, the Grim Reaper, here represented by some kind of weird ram-horned demon icon, is the ultimate follower, following you, I presume, to hell. Oh my God, social media was never so antisocial. Elizabeth Lale, who plays the presumably doomed nurse, is good, but Countdown is dumb product with a script and a premise shot through with logic holes. It's hard to even recommend a bargain matinee or a watch on TV down the line. All right, time to get serious again. And serious means the Kill Team, powerful, taut, and relevant. The Kill Team dramatizes the events that were the topic of an award-winning 2013 documentary of the same name. The situation centers on a young soldier during the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan. This guy, Andrew Brigman, is played by Nat Wolff. Sergeant Deeks, the soldier's new company leader, encourages killing apparently innocent Afghani civilians and makes the murders almost mandatory to be accepted in the unit. Brigman knows this is wrong. His fellow soldiers are buying in, and Deeks begins applying pressure to Brigman with threats of violent reprisals from the eagerly murderous company for ratting them out or for not participating in the killings. Deeks is played here by Alexander Skarsgård of True Blood, among other credits, and his quietly sinister portrayal is just right. The Kill Team is wrenching and effective and worth a watch, written and directed by Dan Kraus. Well done. Okay, quickly wrapping up with a couple of lesser releases, things that maybe aren't going to be on people's radar. The somewhat meandering and pedestrian Frankie has no great highs or lows, but it does boast some very fine actors, especially French grande dame of the cinema Isabelle Huppert and bulky Irish character lead Brendan Gleeson doing their best to breathe life into a movie about a blended family at odds on a vacation to a picturesque town in Portugal. This film is actually written and co-written and directed by Ira Sachs, who's done some interesting projects in the past. And the family is kind of cool, and I guess mom has a bit of a secret, and so all of that comes into play here. Nice watching the performers. It's kind of like one of the lesser works by Eric Romer, the French film director, who talks about interpersonal relationships, but it just sort of meanders. That's the word. Anyway, wish it was better. Finally, I want to point out something that I was really surprised about. Paradise Hills. Talk about ambitious. Gorgeously shot first feature film from director Alice Waddington. It's the YA dystopian sci-fi brought to the screen with like beautiful, eye-opening, retro-futuristic elegance on display, a little reminiscent of the Hunger Games, but this is basically about an island paradise, which is sort of a mix of finishing school and reform school to turn bulky, independent-minded young women more docile and pliant. Kind of like, I don't know, the Stepford home for wayward girls. And it turns out, of course, the truth about the place is even more off the wall. It stars Emma Roberts as the central girl who wakes up in this place, Paradise Hills, and is like, what? And the place is run, by the way, by Mila Jovovich as the Duchess. And there's a couple of other interesting supporting players here, including Awkwafina, of all people, as another person there against their will. Anyway, yeah, I think this is worth seeking out if you like this kind of thing. What are you watching, buddy?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. But I have to tell people, I just noticed that on Netflix, the Kaminsky Method is back. So that is something worthwhile. And just a quick note on your current war, did they cover the fact that the electric chair was invented to show how bad AC was?
They do indeed, and they also have a sequence where Edison does the horse electrocution.
Actually, it wasn't a horse electrocution; it was a elephant.
Wow. All I can tell you is I didn't know much about the background on this thing, and I was pretty interested. If you're a history buff, it might be more interesting to those than maybe just your layperson.
I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, that's it for this week. Tell them where they can find you, Michael.
I'm on Twitter at Culture Blaster, on Facebook at Michael Snyder's Culture Blast page, and on GABNet.
And there's more GABNet coming right up if you're listening to us 24/7. You can hear Michael's reviews over on our on-demand section at gabnet.net. So stay where you are.